So everyone's playing Warzone right now, and you may well have come to this video because, like I was, you're new to the game. This video is going to contain my top 10 tips and advice for new players looking to get better in Warzone and improve their performance. These are all pieces of advice that I feel every player must have a fundamental understanding of in order to excel at the game, as not doing so leaves a big hole in your ability to perform. Now I know there are plenty of tips videos out there, but these 10 are going to explain in depth and designed to help the new players. I'm not aiming this video at the professional esports competitors or competitive streamers. This video is designed to help people who just want to advance their performance and develop their own unique playstyle in conjunction with the advice I'm giving. Hopefully, for all the new players, and maybe some returning ones, this video will at least be of some use to you. Please note this advice is given in no particular order, and I would regard each as equally important to improving your gameplay and overall performance. Also, I'm predominantly a solo Warzone player, so while some of these may be geared towards solo playstyle, they are certainly valuable to any teams out there, as you need to be a good player full stop to be a good team player. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is worrying or stressing about your gameplay. Unless you are a serious competitive player or extremely lucky, you will not be dropping high kill gameplays or winning matches early doors, so don't pressure yourself. There's a lot of different reasons for this, and you need a good hang of a lot of different factors before you start to do these sorts of things. There's a huge variety of guns in this game, and each one plays differently. No two SMGs or assault rifles are the same, and the myriad of attachments means that this range is even wider than it ever has been. There's no point dropping into a game expecting to pick up a gun and do well with it, simply because there's going to be people who already have the experience and have an advantage on you. If you stress and fixate over getting lots of kills or winning, that inevitably doesn't happen. You're only going to get frustrated or annoyed. I get that seeing your friends or watching YouTubers do well on a regular basis is annoying, but everyone starts somewhere. Instead, focus on what you did well each match rather than the negatives. If you did well in a gunfight or survived for a certain amount of time, or killed a player well, then focus on that. Just because you don't drop 10 kills a game doesn't mean anything. In the same vein, don't worry if you're not consistent straight out the door. There's so much variety in these matches that you can do everything right and still not win, and that's not your fault. There's 149 other people trying to win the match, and you simply cannot predict and counter everything they will do. If you're getting shot at from 3 angles, chances are you aren't going to get out of it, and that will be the match for you. But that's not necessarily your fault, as you can try and play smart as you like, and you'll still be unlucky. Luck is a great driver in this game, as much as skill. You have to hope that you aren't seen by other players in a lot of scenarios, and it's impossible to be aware of everything at once. Don't expect miracles when you're new to the game, as it's only going to be demotivating. Instead, you need to focus on all the small improvements that you're making as you go. If you can find a new positive every match, whether it's accuracy, movement, kills or otherwise, that's a good thing. We're all guilty of getting frustrated when things don't go our way, but Warzone is such a dynamic game that tends to happen. Don't forget that streamers and friends alike tend to highlight their positives in their gameplay. They won't highlight the games they died early or choked to kill. Everyone experiences losses, chokes and mistakes, so don't beat yourself up about it. The next point I want to cover is that you need to experiment with the weapon you're using. There's a ton of weapons in this game like I've already mentioned. Each plays very differently and there's plenty of variety in each weapon class. There's a big trend in gaming to copy the weapons that popular streamers are using because people see them doing well and want to mimic their performance. But obviously there's a big misconception that because they're using that gun, the gun is by definition a good one. The M4A1 and MP7 are perfect examples. There's plenty of clips of people dropping insane games and praising these guns. But if you find yourself struggling to use them, then don't feel like you're at a disadvantage if you change weapons. I personally am a big fan of the AK and even the .2725 shotgun. Every gun has pros and cons, and what you want to use should reflect your playstyle. If you want to set up camp with a big old LMG or want to rush with a shotgun, go for it. There's nothing to stop you getting good with a gun that fits your playstyle. In fact, trying to force yourself to use a gun you don't really like, but you think is good because you see a YouTuber using it, is only going to hamper you and frustrate you. Instead, pick a gun that you experience some success with and fancy using, and roll with it. If you're a psychopath who likes running with a thermal sight and an Uzi, go for it. Developing your own playstyle rather than trying to copy other players is definitely in your best interest. Yes, there are overarching factors such as accuracy and player movement, but you can get good with any gun. Give it some time and you'll see results whatever you're using. Number 3 on this list is talking about positioning, and this is a big one. Wherever you are in this game, you always need to be playing smart and planning your next move. A main rule to follow is always have the high ground. This is a pretty staple rule of any competitive FPS for obvious reasons. You make yourself a smaller target and give yourself a greater range of visibility. Using height means that you're going to have an easier time hitting your shots when they're going to have a harder time hitting theirs. It simultaneously makes your life easier and their life harder. Now positioning doesn't just mean height, there's a lot more to it. Using cover is an obvious one, as this will allow the same principles of reducing the target you are whilst making it easy to hit others. In this game, if you get lit up, it's hard to recover and takes time to apply plates and so on. You need to get the advantage where possible, and a lot of this comes down to using cover effectively. Make use of ledges, windows, walls and trees. Your biggest priority as a new player should be giving yourself every advantage that you can. Being caught out in the open is pretty much a death sentence, as you have no way of getting out of line of fire and recovering. I'd heavily advise always planning the route you're going to take. Moving cover to cover might seem excessive, but it prevents you standing out to enemy players. Any competent player that sees an exposed target will probably take the opportunity to get rid of you, and why wouldn't they? By the same token, you don't want to make yourself a sitting duck, so proning on rooftops and in buildings will also be at your disadvantage. If you stay too stationary, you're asking to get sniped or one burst from a shotgun, and that's no fun for anyone. You want to be maintaining an area if you're staying in one place, or moving from building to building in order to stay in cover. Avoid big open spaces like roads and forests, and if you have to use them, cross them as quickly as possible. Take a vehicle if you have to. The point is to make sure that you always have a way of taking cover and shielding up if you need to. You want to be making being shot at hard and shooting at them easy. Now, using cover is all well and good, but there is a limit. You have to stay mobile if you want to succeed. However, this certainly doesn't mean you should go rushing into buildings without a care in the world. Staying in one place makes you an easy target, but holding a small building, floor or rooftop is much more useful. If you're waiting for the next zone or you're already in zone and waiting for teams to come to you, then this is where this advice applies. Make use of any claymores, proximity mines and the like, as to make your life as easy as possible. The ideal scenario in this game is having an enemy come across you unprepared. That way you get an easy kill and your life is generally much easier. There's a fine line between this and being absolutely mobile though. A good player should be able to move from point to point, holding areas as they go. The game and map move with the zones, so you need to be able to adapt with it. What's the point in setting up a fortress on a rooftop, only for it to not be in the next zone? You're much better off being able to move and flow with the game, rather than get picked off by a sniper, and all your hard work be for nothing. I do want to say that I'm not advocating charging around without a purpose though. If you think that someone is camped up in a building, think very carefully about charging in, as they're most likely doing what you are anyway. Very rarely will you go into a well-defended floor and come out on top. Most likely you're going to get lit up by an MG or step on a claymore and that's your game over. Instead, play it smart and aim for buildings that are empty and go from there. The next tip, which is closely linked to the previous one, is always shoot first. Pot shots are pointless and will little more than mildly annoy the enemy. Instead, you're much better off waiting to get the first burst off, doing some damage and pushing your advantage. Shooting first means you disorientate the enemy, and you have all the cards. If you can follow up to good initial damage with a tactical grenade or a lethal, then your life will be much easier. At first it can seem unnatural to want to reveal your location and attack a potentially better player, but this advantage can really shift the balance in any fight. If you wait for an enemy to spot you and force you to fight, you're already at a disadvantage. You've got to figure out where they are, probably heal up and then try and fight them. Instead, by engaging first, you're forcing them to have to do all these things and not you. Don't be afraid to push when you suspect an enemy is medding or running from you. You won't get a better opportunity to take them out. If you wait around too long, they're going to spot you, and it goes from being a fight where you have the advantage to one where it's an even playing field. Now, you may not win the push, you may get outplayed by someone with an RPG or a shotgun, but that's part of the chance you're taking. You're gaining experience, and this will teach you how to handle each new scenario you face better and more effectively. If you take advantage of the disorientation damage you've already done, you'll be in the best position possible to pick up a kill and move on. Return to the point of weapons and engagements. I strongly advise carrying at least one suppressed weapon at all times. It allows your location to remain more of a mystery and generally makes identifying your location much harder. For those scenarios when you're indeed the one shooting first, this is an invaluable asset. Plenty of guns on the map spawn with suppressor variants, so really there's no reason why this shouldn't be possible for everybody. Whilst it may not keep you off the radar like in the Call of Duties of old, the sound suppression they offer, which in itself is a big factor in this game, is still worthwhile having. Keeping with the theme of weapons for the moment, the next thing I would say is pack a wide variety of range in your weapons. Carrying two snipers or SMGs is equally pointless. If anyone starts shooting at you from a range that's medium or otherwise out of your comfort zone, you're going to be in serious trouble. You need to be able to return fire in as many scenarios as possible. As a given, I'd say running with an assault rifle is mandatory, as they can be useful at any range to good effect. Your other weapon is where the more personal choice comes in, as whatever this is will more likely offer you a specific advantage. If you're a close range player, carry a shotgun, and if you like sniping, carry a sniper. Limiting the range you can engage people at simply makes your life much harder than it needs to be. Having a variety of range will definitely stop you dying unnecessarily. I personally advocate the hybrid sights, which allow a rifle range to be extended with an ACOG, but also allow for a red dot for close proximity use. Obviously, these are rare and require a loadout drop to get more often than not, but the overall point remains the same. However, if you do find yourself in a situation you can't win, don't be afraid to run away. There's no harm in running to cover or to a vehicle and going to ground, if there's a fight that you can't win. Fighting in a vague hope that you land a lucky headshot won't work 99% of the time. Instead, you should get out of there, heal up, and then either go back to the fight or move on. Racking up unnecessary deaths won't help you progress your skills in any way. Learning when to live is equally as valuable as anything else. By the same token, you also shouldn't start a fight that you can't win. If you see multiple people, don't bother shooting if you don't think you can take them all. The next point in this video is landing zones, which can be a big area of confusion for a lot of new players. My number one point here is don't listen to those videos reviewing landing spots on the map, as everyone else in the world has also seen them. Instead, land somewhere off the beaten track and give yourself time to stock up on whatever you need. This is kind of another point in its own right, so I'll tie the two together. If you land in high traffic areas, you're more than likely going to die before you lay hands on a decent weapon, and even if you do get a decent one, just die from one of the countless other people that also landed there. By landing somewhere off the beaten track, not the edges of the map mind you give yourself time to get prepared. You won't have to deal with as many people and have a better chance of dealing with fair fights with equipment you actually want. I'd advise picking a few places on the map that you want to get to know well. This too is another point. Learning sections of the map is invaluable to any player, as becoming familiar will allow you to learn how that part of the map works. For loot, you'll know where the spawns are and what order to loot the area in. From a fighting perspective, you'll also learn where the lines of sight are and where cover is, etc, etc. This can definitely seem like a daunting prospect for new players, but it's an essential learning curve. It will also definitely come with time. The more frequently you visit certain areas and the longer you generally spend with the game, the better your experience will be. If you play the same as everyone else, you'll die the same as everyone else. You're much better off finding an area that you like, learning the ins and outs of it, and branching out from there. Multiple bases of knowledge of this sort will allow you to adapt to the zones of each match and ultimately lead to you becoming a better player. Hopefully this advice has served some purpose to you all, and has provided you with some useful tips for improving your gameplay and experience of Warzone overall. With enough time and practice, anyone can get good at a video game, and become a force to be reckoned with within it. The key is approaching it in a smart, logical manner, which is something that I hope this video has provided you all with.